I never thought lighting candles would mark the beginning of the end. It was a chilly Thursday evening. I had taken the day off to surprise my wife, Olivia, with a home-cooked anniversary dinner. 5 years of marriage deserved something special: garlic butter steak, her favorite red wine, and a table set with roses I picked up from the same florist where I bought her bouquet on our wedding day. I even found the playlist we danced to during our honeymoon. I wasn't expecting anything fancy from her, just her presence, her smile, maybe a memory or two shared over dinner. But as the door creaked open and I saw her standing there in her trench coat, her face wasn't right. There was no smile, no surprise, just a strange stillness in her eyes. "Hey," I greeted, walking over to take her coat. She didn't move. "I need to talk to you," she said flatly, her voice a tone I'd never heard before. I froze. This wasn't part of the evening I had planned. "I need to talk to you." Those 5 words turned the air in the room to ice. I slowly stepped back, unsure whether to sit or brace myself. I chose to stand. Olivia walked in without removing her coat. She glanced around, the candles, the food, the wine. Her eyes landed on the photo I'd framed earlier that day, the two of us on our honeymoon, laughing on a beach in Maui. She looked like she wanted to cry, but not out of guilt, more like discomfort. "I'm not staying for dinner," she said, her voice as calm as someone canceling a hair appointment. "I didn't want to ruin your effort. I just needed to say this in person." I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just waited. She inhaled slowly, then dropped the bomb. "I've been seeing someone else. For almost 2 years. I'm leaving you." My ears rang. My vision tunneled for a second, like my brain was trying to protect me from the weight of her words. 2 years. 2. That wasn't a mistake. That was a second life. She kept talking. I think she expected a reaction, yelling, begging, maybe even a slammed door. But I didn't give her any of that. I just asked one question. "Are you happy with him?" That stopped her mid-sentence. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked confused. "What?" she said. I repeated it. Calm. Controlled. "Are you happy with him? Whoever he is." I think so," she said. "His name is David. He treats me well. He understands me. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just—" "I see." That was all I said. I picked up a chair and sat down at the table. She stared at me, stunned. "You're not mad." "Not right now." And I wasn't lying. I felt numb, but not broken. Something inside me had already known. Something inside me had already begun preparing. The silence that followed my last words wasn't empty. It was thick, heavy, the kind of silence that carries unspoken truths and quiet wars. Olivia stood by the door like she was waiting for me to explode, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times, bracing herself for the tearful scene, for accusations, for the predictable heartbreak. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't even angry, because I already knew. I didn't know it was David. Not yet. But I'd felt the shift long ago. The emotional distance, the late nights that turned into early mornings, the sudden conferences that required weekend travel. Her coldness had grown so slowly that I almost didn't notice it, like a frog boiled alive without ever realizing the water got hot. It started small. She changed her passcode. She'd jump when I walked into the room with her laptop open. She used to show me everything: memes, texts from coworkers, outfit ideas. Now she tilted her phone away. The intimacy we once had dissolved quietly, replaced by polite interactions and empty smiles. About 6 months ago, I found a receipt in the laundry. A boutique hotel, one I knew we'd never visited. I didn't confront her, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted the truth. Real truth. The kind that holds up in court or in front of family. I needed more than gut feelings and receipts. I needed evidence. Cold, hard, undeniable evidence. So I hired someone. A private investigator named Roland. Quiet guy. Former military. He took the job seriously. Within a week, he was sending me photos. Olivia meeting a man in the parking lot of a cafe on the east side. Olivia laughing with him in a bookstore. Olivia kissing him beside his car. Always discreet. Always cautious. But not cautious enough. Roland even got a short video of them leaving the same hotel listed on that laundry receipt. The man she was with looked older than me. Cleaner cut. Probably polished enough to make her feel sophisticated again. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew I would soon. I stared across the table at Olivia, who still stood there, stunned that I hadn't lost my mind. I picked up my wine glass. "To the truth," I said and drank. She flinched like I'd slapped her. And in a way, I had. Olivia didn't sit. She clutched the strap of her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her mouth opened and closed several times, like she was trying to reset the scene in her head, like maybe if she waited long enough, I'd finally react the way she expected. Yell, cry, break. But I wouldn't give her that. I wasn't giving her anything anymore. So that's it, she asked finally, voice tight. You're not going to try to fight for us? Not going to ask questions? You're just going to let me walk away? I leaned back in my chair and met her gaze. You're not asking for a conversation. You're making a statement. So why should I try to change your mind if you've already packed your things emotionally 2 years ago? Her lips trembled at that. A flicker of guilt? Or was it just frustration that her script wasn't playing out the way she'd imagined? She swallowed. I never meant to hurt you. David, he wasn't supposed to become anything real. But he was there when I felt like you weren't. David, I said slowly, pretending I'd just heard the name for the first time. David what? She hesitated. Why does it matter? It doesn't. I'm just trying to understand who you gave 2 years of our marriage to. You owe me at least a name. She gave a reluctant sigh. David Whitaker. The name clicked in my brain instantly. I'd seen it before, in the background checks Roland had pulled. Director of some regional finance office. Divorced. No kids. Clean record. Bland LinkedIn profile. Just the kind of predictable, safe man Olivia would chase when she got tired of our boring life. I see, I said. And does David know you're married? She flinched again. That was answer enough. You lied to him? I asked. No, I didn't lie. She snapped too quickly. I just didn't tell him right away. He figured it out eventually. Did he? She looked away. Interesting. I had a feeling David didn't know everything. Not the full picture. And that gave me leverage. I stood from the table, blowing out one of the candles. You should go, Olivia. There's nothing else to say tonight. She blinked, confused. Wait, aren't you going to ask me where I'll be staying? What happens with the kids? I turned to her, my expression unreadable. You made your decision. I've already made mine. I didn't need to argue. I already had a lawyer. I already had documented infidelity. I already had a plan. I walked past her, opened the front door, and waited. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. Because the man she betrayed wasn't standing in front of her. The man who would destroy every lie she built was. The next morning, I called Roland. He answered after one ring, like he'd been expecting me. You want to move forward? He asked. Yes, I said. Let's find a way to talk to David. I want to meet him. But it has to be clean. Casual. No confrontation. Understood, he replied. I already have his routine. He goes to the same cafe every Saturday around 10. East Side. Quiet spot. Perfect, I said. I'll be there. That Saturday, I arrived early. I sat at a table in the corner, dressed in my usual jeans and a plain jacket. I didn't want to look threatening. I wanted to look normal, uninteresting. The guy you'd forget after a single glance. David walked in right on time. He looked exactly like his photos, mid-40s, expensive coat, confident but not arrogant. He ordered his coffee, pulled out a tablet, and started scrolling through what looked like budget reports. I watched him for a few minutes. Calm, focused, not a trace of guilt on his face. I waited until he sipped his coffee, then stood and approached his table. David Whitaker. He looked up, surprised. Yes. I extended my hand. My name's Aaron Carter. Olivia's husband. The color drained from his face. He set his cup down slowly. I didn't know. She told me you two were separated. She said you lived in different cities. That's not true, I said quietly. We've lived together this whole time. Married, sharing a house, raising kids. He looked sick, and honestly, I believed it. I could tell by the way he blinked hard, processing, like something in his world just tilted sideways. I'm not here to start a fight, I added. I'm here to share some information, and maybe save you from making a mistake. He gestured shakily to the seat across from him. Sit, please. I slid into the chair and reached into my bag. I pulled out a folder, copies of photos, hotel receipts, even a printed text thread Roland had retrieved from a device Olivia had discarded. I didn't come empty-handed, I said. I'm not guessing. I know. David flipped through the documents like someone looking at crime scene photos. By the time he got halfway through, his expression had shifted from shock to furious. She told me you were abusive, he said in a strained voice. She said she stayed because of the kids, that you were distant, cold, controlling. I stared at him evenly. And you believed that, without ever meeting me? Without asking for proof? He looked away, ashamed. I've never laid a finger on her. I've cooked her dinner every week, planned vacations, took care of her during her surgeries. And while I was doing that, she was building a fantasy with you, using lies as cement. I'm sorry, he whispered. I don't need your apology, I replied. But I do need your cooperation. She's going to try to use you when this gets messy, and I need to know you won't let her drag you into court to defend her lies. He looked me in the eye. You have my word. Good. I stood. And one more thing. He looked up. She told me you made her happy. But now you know the truth. So ask yourself, are you still happy? I walked out without waiting for his answer. By Monday morning, the switch had flipped. I wasn't Aaron the husband anymore. I was Aaron the executor, cold, focused, and armed with everything I needed. The first thing I did was meet with my attorney, Melissa Graves. She was smart, relentless, and not someone you wanted to see on the other side of a courtroom. I laid out the timeline, showed her the evidence, and explained that Olivia was planning to leave me, and possibly take the kids. Melissa flipped through the file with barely concealed satisfaction. This is more than enough. The infidelity, deception, emotional negligence. We'll file for divorce with full custody and protect your assets. If she tries to drag this into court, she'll be standing on quicksand. Good, I said, because I'm not fighting for revenge. I'm fighting for my children. And I meant that. I wasn't trying to ruin Olivia just for the pain she caused me. But I'd be damned if she was going to lie her way into custody after everything she'd done. Olivia was still living in the house. Awkward, tense silence filled every hallway. She had no idea I had already spoken to David. No idea I had a lawyer. She walked around as if she still had control. She was wrong. That night, she finally tried to sit me down. We should talk about custody, she said, flipping her hair behind her ear like we were two business partners. I've already spoken with my lawyer, I replied. Her face paled. You what? I know everything, Olivia. The hotels. The lies. David. The story you fed him about our marriage being abusive. Everything. Her mouth fell open, eyes wide with disbelief. You went behind my back? No, I said calmly. You left me behind a long time ago. I just caught up. She started to stammer something. Probably the same fake remorse she'd rehearsed in front of a mirror. But I stopped her with one sentence. David knows the truth now. Her face crumbled. She sat down like someone had just pulled the floor from under her. You talked to him? Yes. And funny thing, he didn't know you were still living with me. He thought we were separated. You manipulated him just like you tried to manipulate me. The silence that followed was louder than any argument we'd ever had. I'm filing for divorce this week, I continued. Full custody. Supervised visitation. I've got the timeline, the photos, and your confession from last week on our home security camera. Her eyes widened. What? I didn't smile. But I could have. Did you really think I installed that system for burglars? She had no words left. Just stunned, breathless panic. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt free. The next few weeks were a controlled burn. My lawyer filed for divorce, citing adultery and emotional abandonment. We submitted the surveillance footage, Roland's documentation, and Olivia's own confession. Melissa moved quickly, filing motions to protect the kids from being moved or manipulated. When Olivia was served the papers, I watched her go ghost pale in our kitchen. You're serious, she whispered, holding the thick envelope in trembling hands. I've never been more serious in my life. From that moment on, everything started to slip for her. David, unsurprisingly, cut contact. I didn't tell him to. He made that choice himself. I imagined the weight of her lies, of being used as a tool for emotional escape, was enough to kill whatever fantasy he thought they had. Olivia called him, texted him, even showed up at his office. He had her blocked within days. I saw her break down behind the garage one night, phone in hand, staring blankly into the dark. And while a part of me remembered the woman I married, the one I thought I knew, another part reminded me that she had made this bed, and now she was lying in it. She tried to negotiate with me privately. We don't need lawyers, she said one morning, trying to smile. Let's just split things amicably. I'll take the boys 3 days a week. No, I interrupted. You'll take what the court gives you. Her smile faltered. Aaron, I made a mistake, but I'm still their mother, and I'm still their father. One who didn't lie, cheat, or abandon them. You're not stealing their reality just to preserve your image. What shattered her completely was what came next. My lawyer secured an emergency court hearing. I showed everything. Proof of infidelity, documentation that she lied to both me and David, and even written statements from friends and neighbors who had watched her disappear from our family life while I picked up the pieces. A few of them mentioned how often she left the kids with me to go on girls' weekends. Olivia tried to claim emotional instability on my part, but it was clear the judge wasn't buying it. Her story fell apart when I remained calm, collected, and had receipts for everything. Temporary full custody was awarded to me, pending the final ruling. She got supervised visits. Twice a week. No overnights. When we left the courtroom, she looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. And honestly, she didn't. Because this wasn't the version of me she walked away from. This was the version who survived. After the hearing, the house felt emptier than ever. Not in the way you'd expect. Not because Olivia was gone, but because the tension that had haunted every corner of it finally lifted. The air felt breathable. The silence was no longer something I feared. It was peace. But that didn't mean it was easy. The boys asked questions. I gave them age-appropriate answers, never once speaking badly about Olivia in front of them. I made their lunches, drove them to school, and tucked them in at night, all while hiding my exhaustion behind forced smiles and coffee. It wasn't that I didn't want to fall apart. I just didn't have the luxury. And then came Claire. She lived 2 doors down. We'd exchanged casual greetings over the years, waves from across driveways, short hellos while bringing in groceries. I knew she was divorced. I knew she had a daughter in college. But I didn't know how much I needed her until I saw her standing at my front steps one evening, holding a covered dish and a nervous smile. "I made too much lasagna," she said. "Thought maybe you and the boys could use a break from pizza." It wasn't just the food. It was the timing, the warmth in her voice. The way she didn't pry, didn't ask questions, didn't offer fake sympathy. She just sat on the porch with me while the boys watched cartoons inside. And for the first time in weeks, I let my guard down. Over the next few weeks, Claire became steady. Sometimes it was as simple as her texting me, "Need anything from the store?" Other times she'd drop off banana bread or a puzzle for the boys. But it wasn't what she did. It was how she made me feel, human again. Not like some discarded husband or pitted divorcee, but like a man with worth, with strength, with a future. One night, after a particularly exhausting day in court, I found myself sitting in her backyard. The stars were out. We talked about everything and nothing. And then she said something I'll never forget. "You're not broken, Aaron. You were betrayed, but not broken. There's a difference." That night, for the first time since Olivia's confession, I slept without waking up in a cold sweat. Because somewhere in the wreckage of my old life, something new was starting to grow. If betrayal is a knife, exposure is the twist. After the court hearing, the dominoes in Olivia's life began to fall, slowly at first, then all at once. It wasn't just about custody or legal filings anymore. It was about reputation. About the narrative she had carefully built around herself for years. And that narrative was crumbling. I never told anyone what happened. I didn't need to. People talk. Her friends started asking questions when she suddenly moved into a furnished apartment and couldn't explain why she didn't have the kids with her. At first, she told them we had mutually separated. But that didn't last long. One of the moms from our son's school saw her at a coffee shop, arguing with someone on the phone, red-eyed, panicked, shaking. Then another parent asked why Olivia hadn't been at the last few soccer games. Eventually, one of her closest friends, Melissa W., a woman Olivia used to gossip with for hours, called me directly. I'll never forget that conversation. "I don't mean to pry," Melissa said gently. "But did Olivia cheat on you?" I paused. "Why are you asking?" "She told me you were emotionally distant, that you shut her out. But the stories aren't adding up. People are saying she's not being honest." I didn't confirm anything. I just said, "You should talk to her." That was enough. Within 2 weeks, most of her friends had stopped calling. The group chats she once dominated went silent. Her Instagram, once filled with perfect selfies and wine nights, became a ghost town. No likes, no comments, just silence. Even her family backed away. Her sister, who always liked me, sent me a message. "I'm sorry. I didn't know the full story. I'm just glad the boys are with you." That one hit hard. And as for David, he disappeared completely. Olivia must have reached out, maybe thinking she could rebuild something with him now that her marriage was officially ending. But the man didn't even respond to her emails. Roland told me he'd seen Olivia waiting outside David's office twice. Both times, she left alone. The woman who stood so confidently in my kitchen weeks ago, announcing her affair like a promotion, was now unraveling. No support system. No backup plan. No one left to tell her lies to. I should have felt vindicated. Triumphant, even. But all I felt was closure. It wasn't my job to punish her. Life was doing that on its own. And while she spiraled, I kept walking forward, step by steady step, toward something better. The final court date felt strangely anticlimactic. There were no fireworks, no shouting, no dramatic monologues. Just a quiet room, a judge flipping through paperwork, and a gavel that marked the official end of a marriage and the beginning of a life I never saw coming. Full custody was granted to me. Olivia would have supervised visits twice a week, with mandatory counseling. The court was firm about emotional neglect and dishonesty, especially given the evidence. My assets were protected, my home secure, my children safe. I walked out of the courthouse that day not as a man who had won a fight, but as someone who had finally dropped the weight he'd been dragging for years. That weekend, I moved Olivia's remaining things into storage and had her access code changed. The boys didn't ask many questions. Kids are incredibly perceptive. They just knew Dad was calmer now, more present. They smiled more, laughed louder, and so did I. We started building routines. Pancake Saturdays, homework at the kitchen counter, bike rides after dinner. The silence in the house was no longer oppressive. It was peaceful. There was no tension in the air, no walking on eggshells. Just love, stability, and slow healing. And Claire? She became a fixture in our lives. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a grand love story that exploded into fireworks. It was quiet, respectful, and exactly what I needed. She helped with school pickups when I had late work meetings. She baked cookies with the boys on weekends. She never overstepped, never acted like she was trying to replace anyone. She was simply there, present, steady, and kind. One evening, after the boys had fallen asleep watching a movie on the couch, she and I sat outside on the back deck. The stars were out again, and there was that same kind of stillness in the air I remembered from weeks ago, but now, it didn't feel empty. It felt safe. I don't know what I would have done without you, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Claire smiled, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. You would have made it. You just might have taken longer to believe it. There was no pressure between us. No expectations. Just two people, both carrying their own pasts, slowly daring to build something new. That night, I didn't kiss her. Not yet. But I held her hand for the first time. And somehow, that felt even more intimate. I knew it wasn't over. Not really. Even after the final gavel hit, even after Olivia's supervised visit started, I could feel it in the way she looked at me. She hadn't accepted the outcome, not in her heart. She was biding time, waiting for a moment to claw her way back into control. That moment came sooner than I expected. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when I got the call. Melissa, my attorney, her voice calm but firm. Aaron, Olivia's filed a motion to amend the custody arrangement. I closed my eyes. On what grounds? She claims you're alienating the children, that you're manipulating them emotionally, turning them against her. I let out a slow breath. Unbelievable. Melissa didn't sound worried. She has no new evidence. The court won't change a thing, especially after how solid your case was. But we'll still need to show up, answer formally, and push back hard. And that's exactly what we did. In court, Olivia painted herself as the victim. She spoke of emotional abuse, gaslighting, and parental alienation. But her words were hollow. There were no tears, no fire, just rehearsed lines spoken by someone trying to rewrite the narrative too late. I, on the other hand, brought receipts. Again, I had teacher testimonials, therapist reports, and a new written statement from David Whitaker himself, confirming the manipulation and lies Olivia told him, including her denial of still being married. The judge didn't even need an hour to deliberate. Motion denied. Sanctions applied for filing in bad faith. And with that, Olivia's last move crumbled. She didn't make eye contact as we left the courtroom, just gathered her things and walked out like a ghost, a shadow of the person she once pretended to be. And I felt something I hadn't truly felt since the day this all began. Relief. Not just because I protected my kids, not just because I'd proven the truth, but because, for the first time in a very long time, I knew this chapter was closing. Claire met me outside the courthouse with a coffee in hand and a look that said she already knew the outcome. I took the cup. It's over. She smiled. No, love. It's just beginning. Something shifted after that final court battle. There were no more legal letters in the mailbox. No unexpected texts from Olivia. No veiled threats. No manipulations. Just silence. A calm, unbothered kind of silence. The kind that comes when you finally stand on the other side of the storm and realize the ground beneath your feet is solid again. The boys noticed it, too. They stopped asking when their mom was coming over. They stopped flinching when the doorbell rang. Instead, they laughed more, argued over cereal, asked me to play board games on school nights. Our house felt lived in again, not like a battlefield, but like a home. And Claire? She blended into our lives like she'd always belonged there, but never once forced it. She took it slow with the boys. She didn't try to act like their mother. She showed up with warmth, patience, and small acts of kindness, helping with homework, cheering from the sidelines at soccer games, slipping notes of encouragement into their backpacks before tests. One evening, my youngest, Liam, asked her without warning, "Are you going to be our stepmom someday?" Claire froze. I looked up from the sink, heart skipping. She crouched to his level and said, "That's not my choice to make, buddy. That's between your dad and your heart. I'm just happy to be here if you want me." He grinned and gave her a hug so tight it made her eyes shine. I'll admit, mine did too. Later that night, after the boys were asleep, we sat on the couch under a blanket. Claire leaned into me and said softly, "You have two incredible kids." "I had help," I replied, pulling her closer. "Mostly from a woman who walked into our lives when we needed her most." She looked up at me. "You're healing, Aaron. All three of you are. I can see it." "I don't feel broken anymore," I admitted. "You never were," she said. "You were just buried under someone else's lies." We kissed for the first time that night, not out of desperation or comfort or confusion, but out of hope, out of something real. It wasn't a perfect kiss, and it didn't need to be. It was honest, and it felt like the beginning of something whole. It came on a Tuesday. The boys were at school. Claire was working from home upstairs. I was folding laundry in the living room, enjoying the rare quiet, when my phone buzzed. One new message. From Olivia. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before opening it. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't understand what I had until I destroyed it. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I hope the boys are doing well. I hope you're doing okay. You don't have to respond. I just needed to say it. I read it twice, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the gut-tightening rage or confusion that used to paralyze me. I felt distant, like someone reading a memory written by someone else. She was right about one thing. She didn't deserve forgiveness. But that didn't mean I had to carry the weight anymore. I didn't reply, not out of bitterness, but because some things don't need closure. Not from the person who broke you. Sometimes, the closure is living a life they no longer have access to. I set the phone down and looked around the room. The pictures of the boys on the wall, the light coming in through the window, the soft hum of Claire's voice upstairs on a video call. This was peace. This was the life I rebuilt. Later that evening, I told Claire about the message. She didn't ask questions. She didn't look jealous or insecure. She just touched my hand gently and said, "I'm proud of you." And I realized so was I. Because surviving betrayal isn't about destroying the person who hurt you. It's about becoming someone they can't touch anymore. It started like any other weekend. Claire came over Friday evening with her signature chili and that bottle of red wine we both liked. The boys were playing Minecraft in the next room, shouting about creepers and exploding sheep while we sat at the table, laughing over old stories. Everything felt easy, light, effortless. After dinner, she helped me clean up, even though I told her 100 times she didn't need to. That was Claire, always helping, never asking for credit. We ended up on the porch later that night, wrapped in a blanket under the stars. It had become our ritual, our quiet place. "I never thought I'd have this again," I said, watching her trace circles on the rim of her mug. Peace, love, real connection. Claire looked up, her eyes soft. "I never thought I'd be part of something that felt like home again." That word, home, landed differently this time. I turned toward her. My heart didn't race the way it once did with Olivia. This was deeper, calmer, solid ground instead of quicksand. "I've been thinking," I began slowly, "about what we've built, about how you've become part of this family. Not just for me, but for the boys too." She didn't say anything. She just nodded, encouraging me to go on. "I know we've both been through a lot. I know we're still healing in different ways. But I also know I don't want to go another day without you being truly part of our lives." Officially, I pulled a small velvet box from my jacket pocket. Her hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide. "No pressure," I said quickly, my voice shaking slightly. "No expectations. I'm not asking for some big wedding or even a fast timeline. I'm just asking if you'd want to build the rest of this life with me. As my partner, as their stepmom, as my future." Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled through them. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. When I slipped the ring on her finger, it wasn't just a proposal. It was a promise that the past wouldn't define me, that my kids would grow up watching love done right, that sometimes the best chapters come after the worst endings. It's been over a year now. A year since the candles and the steak and the night Olivia told me she was leaving. A year since the storm hit, tearing through everything I thought was permanent. A year since I stood in the ashes of my old life and decided I wasn't going to be a victim. And today, I'm standing in our backyard, surrounded by laughter and love. Claire is at the grill, flipping burgers while the boys chase each other through the grass with water guns. There's music playing from a Bluetooth speaker, the scent of fresh-cut grass in the air, and that feeling I never thought I'd get back, of wholeness. She said yes, by the way. We're not rushing into a big wedding. That's not what this is about. We're focused on the life in between the milestones, morning coffees, after-school talks, inside jokes, family movie nights. We've built a home that's rooted in trust, honesty, and quiet strength. Olivia still sees the boys, but under the structure the court ordered. I keep it civil. I protect my children's peace. And strangely, I no longer feel anger toward her. Just distance. Her choices were her own. Mine were, too. People often ask me how I stayed calm, how I didn't fall apart, how I managed to build something after being betrayed so deeply. And here's what I've learned. You don't heal by chasing revenge. You heal by choosing peace, over and over. You heal by building something so strong, your past can't shake it. You heal when you realize that someone else's lies don't define your worth. And most importantly, you heal when you choose to. So if you're out there, reading this, broken in a kitchen full of candles that were meant to mean something, just know, the end of their story doesn't mean the end of yours. Sometimes, the most painful truths will clear the way for the most honest beginnings. And sometimes, rock bottom is just the foundation you needed all along. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more powerful true style stories every week. Your support means the world.